It's a video extra from the Mossad Files. It's the weekly audio podcast focused on strategic issues in the Middle East, especially regarding Israel. I'm Dan Raviv, co-author of 6 books about Israeli intelligence, diplomacy, and strategy. But in this recording, we have a true expert in Israel, Dr. Kobi Michael. Let's bring you in visually. There you are. Thank you so much. Kobi Michael, senior researcher at INSS, the Institute for National Security Studies, located near Tel Aviv. Also at the Misgav Center, the Misgav Institute, which is focused also on strategy and Zionism. And in addition, I know a visiting professor at the University of South Wales. Okay, Kobi Michael, we've got a lot to cover. Right where you are in Israel, there was a visit by Jared Kushner, President Trump's son-in-law, his chief mediator, it seems, for the Middle East on both Iran and Gaza. The focus was Gaza, and Jared Kushner in Cairo had just met with leaders of Hamas, a terrorist group. I can't help but wonder if he shook their hand. He certainly, in an interview, did refer to them as having carried out the atrocities of October 7th. He said they're a terrorist group, but he met with them. Should we just get past that, right? Such meetings used to be banned, but now it's part of reality. Dr. Michael?
Yes, I think that it is very bad. And I think that we can find some similarities between the events or the developments in this regard about Gaza and the back channel that we were informed just recently that was opened between President Trump and his special envoys and the Revolutionary Guard in Iran. Okay, so we are talking about two entities which are terrorist entities, barbaric entities, and unfortunately the leading superpower, the leader of the free world, negotiates with them. I think that when it comes to Hamas, the idea that Kushner sits together with Khalil al-Hayya, the head of Hamas, the leader of Hamas, in Cairo, together with the Turkish, Qatarian, and Egyptian representatives. All the three of them were actually the mediators that came with a 15 points agreement, okay, which once again is very similar to the reality that we are witnessing in Iran, because we had the MOU that was ended just yesterday, okay, and just before it was ended, we were exposed to a negotiation between Iran and Oman with regard to the Strait of Hormuz, which was supposed to be a sort of a corridor or an agreement that will facilitate the realization of the MOU that was signed before, okay? And this is exactly the same rationale behind the 15 points agreement between the Board of Peace and Hamas.
Let me just remind everybody of a timeline, if you will. What happened just about 60 days ago was finally a breakthrough in which the United States and Iran, thanks to mediators, agreed their memorandum of understanding, a 60-day ceasefire, but actually a period of time to negotiate what's next, maybe even setting up talks for limiting Iran's nuclear program, let alone reopening the Strait of Hormuz for the sake of the world economy and the U.S. Meanwhile, we had the end, basically, of the Gaza war. Right, October 7th, 2023, the horrible terrorist attack by Hamas in Israel, followed by Israel hitting back against Gaza really hard for 2 years. All the hostages were released, dead or alive. Many had been murdered in captivity. But the idea was that Donald Trump had a peace plan, as you say, the 20 points. A board of peace was created, a stabilization force. Soldiers from various countries would enter. So we have 2 tracks now that are based on Trump plans, 15 points, 20 points, and both of them are kind of stuck. I mean, I think I brought our viewers and listeners up to date.
Yes, and unfortunately, there is a very significant linkage between Iran and the Gaza Strip, between Iran and Lebanon. We haven't mentioned Lebanon, but Lebanon is another component of this complexity. And as long as the Iranians believe that they are with the upper hand, as long as they believe that they are capable to deter President Trump and the US, and as long as they continue reconstituting their military capacities, continue threatening the Gulf countries, and continue threatening even and humiliating President Trump, the US, and threatening Israel. And I would like to remind our viewers that Iran has succeeded in entering or bringing Lebanon to the MOU as well. They imposed the ceasefire in Lebanon, okay? And now they declare that if they will resume the negotiation with the US, then they will impose a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip as well. And in the third phase, okay, I assume that they will add the Houthis in Yemen as well. And this is a
And you'd
very
say,
bad.
Dr. Michael, that anyone who thinks that a ceasefire is a good thing because we all like peace, what it really represents is tying Israel's hands. And that's what Iran wants, as well as causing, of course, a rift between the US and Israel.
Yes, and you know something, I would say that I would have been ready to pay this price if there was a ceasefire, but there was no ceasefire. I mean, since the first hour, Hamas breached the ceasefire agreement, and actually, this it is not a really it's not a real ceasefire, and the
And
problem
to
is
be fair, the Arab media are always pointing it out this way that I'm about to say. When the Israelis could find a suitable and important target, often boasting that the target was some terrorist who had crossed into Israel on October 7th or had abused Israeli hostages, then Israel has been picking them off and killing individuals in Gaza, sometimes killing their families. I just thought to mention that.
yes, but we have to understand the context. Okay, the context is that Israel actually does not initiate. Israel retaliates. Israel actually responds to the breaches of Hamas, and Israel responds in a disproportional manner. Okay, very aggressively. Whenever Hamas breaches the agreement, then Israel retaliates very aggressively, including targeted killing of these terrorists. Okay. But the situation on the reality on the ground is that Hamas, since the beginning of the ceasefire, reconstitutes itself militarily, governmentally, and eventually Hamas does not intend to disappear from the Gaza Strip. And unfortunately, the biggest providers and supporters of Hamas are Turkey and Qatar, and both countries do not. I say they are not willing that Hamas will disappear from the Gaza Strip. They want both countries that Hamas will remain an influential actor in the Gaza Strip and beyond the Gaza Strip, in the entire Palestinian arena. In their eyes, okay, Hamas is the replacement for the Palestinian Authority in the future to come.
Okay.
We have
And
to.
that may well happen, of course, that Hamas dominates whenever there is a Palestinian election or just a reality. By the way, do you fear that as the chief U.S. mediator, Jared Kushner gets fooled, obviously gets lied to? That, of course, happens. But he goes to talks in Cairo, and afterward he says, we explained a few things to Hamas and we listened to their concerns. As an Israeli strategist, who, of course, wants the best for your country, and you'd like the wars to end, I'm sure of that, Dr. Michael. Do you fear that Jared Kushner has only a superficial understanding?
Yes, at least I suspect so. And if there is something that I'm really concerned about is that we are going to duplicate the I would say the failure and the stupidity of January 2006 when President Bush, the son, didn't listen to Prime Minister Sharon and to Abu Mazen. Both of them told him, don't force us to enable Hamas to participate in the election. Okay, but he wanted democracy. Okay, and he wanted to democratize Palestine, and he forced Israel and the Palestinian Authority to enable Hamas to participate in the election of January 2006. And eventually, Hamas won the election, and this was the corridor the coup d'etat of June 2007. And if you want, from the historical point of view, this is the main reason for the bloody situation in the Gaza Strip since June 2007 until October 7, 23, and since October 7, 23. Okay,
By the way,
and
I'm not here to defend George W. Bush in 2006, which, by the way, was months after Israel left the Gaza Strip, withdrew all the settlers and the soldiers, and a
yeah,
decision
yeah,
had to be made, right? How to regard Gaza's future. Some thought it could be a model for the real possibilities. So Bush
the
wanted democracy,
Palestinians,
as you say.
the Palestinians got a historic opportunity
Yeah.
to begin building their independent state in the Gaza Strip, where there are no Jewish settlements, not even a single Israeli soldier, and Israel withdrew to the 67 borders. Okay,
Yeah,
and
that's the
they got
situation in late 2005. Again, I
yeah,
want to bring up the small defense of George W. Bush and Condoleezza Rice. Even if there hadn't been any election or Hamas had been barred as a radical Islamic terrorist group, even if they'd been barred, don't you think inevitably they would have still taken over? They would have seemed more powerful, honest, not corrupt like the Al Fatah faction. They might have taken over anyway.
this is a counterfactual, methodology that we have to use, and it is not the most reliable methodology. But I believe that if the elections would have been held without Hamas, then Hamas couldn't build the government. I would like to remind our viewers that following the results of the elections, Ismail Haniyeh was appointed as the prime minister. Okay, and I think that if the Palestinian Authority would have remained there after the elections, I really doubt that Hamas would have succeeded in such a coup d'etat. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm wrong in this regard. But
Well,
it doesn't.
let's deal with the facts, right? Gaza is still okay. Yeah, Gaza is different since Israel pounded it so hard after the atrocities of October 7th. The area controlled by Hamas is much narrower and thinner, but
Yes, of course.
within that area, they are still dictatorial and talking about maybe we'll give up our weapons if you persuade us only to an Arab party.
Yeah,
You're not buying it. Yeah.
these are the creative ideas that the Qatarians and the Turks brought to the table, okay, in order to enable Hamas to remain as an influential actor. Actually, they try to develop a model which is very similar to Hezbollah model in Lebanon. They created the differentiation between light weapon and the heavy weapon, and they came with the idea that instead of destroying the weapon will be stored and will be controlled by a Palestinian entity, and they came with the idea of the sequence of the events, which means that first the IDF will withdraw, and then Hamas will dismantle part of its weapon, and then the IDF will continue withdrawing, and the Hamas will continue dismantling itself, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, I think that when Kushner met Khalil al-Haya together with the mediators, I think that it was a very bad signal to the entire region. It means that he enabled Hamas to be equal, okay, and to be legitimate. He legitimized Hamas in this way or another, instead of instead of isolating Hamas, instead of weakening Hamas, instead of delegitimizing Hamas, he did just the opposite. Now,
Interesting.
the good
And
news,
then Kushner would have brought that with Tony Blair and Nikolai Mladenov of the Board of Peace. They would have brought that. This is what we can get from Hamas. This is what we heard to Prime Minister Netanyahu, who did, at least publicly, take a firm stand. Israeli troops will not withdraw, not even to the yellow line of a year ago, unless there is a real disarmament. So you applaud that stand, yes?
and this is the good news. The good news is that eventually, immediately after the meeting, it was informed that Kushner explained and emphasized to Hamas leader, to El-Haya, that the IDF will not withdraw from the Gaza Strip until Hamas will be disarmed, and the idea of disarmament, the idea of dismantling the military wing of Hamas is not the idea of storing the weapon, but the idea of destroying the weapon, okay? Taking out the weapon from the Gaza Strip and destroying it. And after the meeting of Kushner and Prime Minister Netanyahu here in Israel, both sides declared that there is an agreement, there is an understanding between both sides that the IDF will not withdraw until Hamas will be dismantled. First of all, Hamas must be dismantled completely, and only then the IDF will withdraw. And today we were informed that there is an understanding between Israel and the United States that it will be done in one phase, in one step, okay, not in a gradual manner, which means that first of all, Hamas will be disarmed completely, and then the IDF will withdraw completely until to the security perimeter. So the situation now is that the IDF is deployed along the yellow line. The situation is that Israel is ready to restrain itself for another few days in order to enable Kushner and Meldanov to bring Hamas to the realization of the agreement. I don't believe that something like that actually will happen. And but if there is I would say a real risk, then Israel will act, will operate in order to thwart it. And eventually we see that in the last 3-4 days, Israel targeted some operatives of Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad in the Gaza Strip, because we see that Hamas continues to try to reach to the yellow line. Hamas continues to try to target the IDF soldiers, and Hamas continues to reconstitute itself militarily in the Gaza Strip to prepare its operatives for another attack. And they also reconstruct the terror tunnels, and they reconstruct their manufacturing capabilities of weapon manufacturing, okay? So I think that at the end of the day, what we see here is a sort of a repetition of what we went through with Iran, okay? These radicals entities are not negotiable. I mean, you cannot negotiate with them. They do not intend to negotiate or to reach to real understandings. They do not intend to dismantle themselves. And therefore, I think that when it comes to such radical entities, you have to destroy them.
Wow.
And the idea of destroying them is that the idea of destroying them is not necessarily to kill them, okay? The idea of destroying them is the idea of denying their military capacities in a way that they will not be able to influence or to operate as an organized military entities.
This my thought is, Kobi Michael, my thought about the Gaza side of that is that Hamas doesn't need more than small arms and being a bloody dictatorship within its little territory to still be a dangerous splinter, eventually planning suicide attacks, looking for an opening to go into Israel. You're not getting yourself any peace because you can't kill them all. And about the Iran part, where you have a large country of 93 million people, you're not going to bomb them into compliance if the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps is still radical as you describe. You don't think that eventually diplomacy, especially with Iran, diplomacy is going to be the answer?
Not at this stage. And when it comes to the idea of toppling down this regime, or at least weakening this regime in a very severe manner, it doesn't mean that you have to bomb all of Iran, okay? There are several ways to do that. You can paralyze Tehran as a functioning capital of Iran, and it is not so complicated from the military point of view, you can shut down or you can paralyze the Bandar Abbas area and all the areas which are crucial for energy matters in Iran, and you can hit very crucial civilian infrastructures, be it bridges, road. You can hit energy facilities.
But don't you feel that the IRGC, if they're the ones running basically the Iranian regime, will celebrate that as a noble sacrifice? They're not going to give in.
I have no doubt that you are right in this regard, and this is exactly what they will say. But at the end of the day, in order to assure their survival, they have to have some capacities, some means, some assets. And if you deny these assets, if you deny these capacities, then they will not be able to continue surviving. And you facilitate eventually the required condition for the Iranian people to continue the work and to do what they have to do in order to topple down this regime. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't have to glorify and we don't have to exaggerate too much when it comes to the Iranian regime. Okay, they are blood and flesh, flesh and blood, and they cannot. They are not immortal. Okay. I mean, at the end of the day, you can break them. The question is how determined you are going to be, how sophisticated you are going to be, what will be the means that you are going to use, and we have to remember that they are in Iran itself. Okay, this regime has support of less than 20% of the entire huge population. More than 80% of this of the Iranian population cannot stand this regime, and we have very big minorities in Iran that, although they feel part of the Iranian people, they suffered from this regime and they want to have a sort of an expanded autonomy, be it the Baluchis or be it the Arabs in Khuzestan or be it the Kurds. Okay, and I think that this might be an opportunity for them to reach to their autonomy. It doesn't mean that they are seeking to establish an independent state, but they do seek to have more autonomy and, to be able to exercise their self-identity as ethnic groups.
And
And
reject the
I think,
control of Tehran and the mullahs. I get your
yes.
point. Hey, Dr. Michael, we only have a couple of minutes left, so I'd like your quick take on something that made a lot of headlines, a tripartite defense accord of Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey. It sounded like they were putting out a message like, we're not going to depend on America anymore. And some analysts say, that's the Saudis saying they don't plan on recognizing Israel anytime soon. They made a different decision. They'll stand with Turkey and Pakistan. What's your view?
But you didn't mention the most bizarre thing in this regard, the tweet of President Trump that he actually congratulated, okay, all the three about this pact, about this alliance that works just against the United States and against the interests of the United States, and actually all of this alliance weakens the American position here in the broader Middle East. Look, it is an important event, more in the symbolic sphere. Okay, I do not see Pakistan or Turkey come to help the Saudis when they will be attacked, and eventually the Saudis were attacked after signing on this alliance, after the establishment of this alliance, and they continued to be attacked from the south by the Houthis and from the north by the Shiite militias in Iraq. And I haven't noticed that Pakistan or Turkey came to help the Saudis, and I didn't I didn't see that the Turks or the Pakistanians actually did something against the Houthis or the Shiite militias.
Mm.
And I do not believe that if Iran will attack the Saudis, something that Iran already did, okay, then Turkey will attack Iran or Pakistan will attack Iran.
Or
And
or if Turkey gets involved with something as a NATO member, you don't really expect. But you see,
yeah,
all of the different variations is a way of saying you
so
don't take the contents of this
eventually,
deal. You don't take the contents that seriously.
I do take it seriously, but not. I don't think that it will be realized militarily. Okay. At the end of the day, there is for something like a decade, there is a sort of an agreement or alliance between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. Okay, and there are something like 13,000 Pakistani soldiers in Saudi Arabia, and they were there even before the war against Iran. So did they do something in the war against Iran when Iran attacked the Saudis? No, the Saudis pay a lot of money to the Pakistanis in order to bring their soldiers and in order to bring their fighters. There are two squads of fighters, Pakistani fighters in jets in Saudi Arabia, but they do nothing. Eventually, they do nothing. But there is an importance to this alliance, first of all, for the Turks. I think that the Turks are the biggest winner in this event because this alliance enabled the Turks to have more influence here in the region, and I think that this alliance eventually enables the Turks to realize their hegemonic aspirations in the broader Middle East, to position themselves as a very critical and essential actor here in the region. And I think that this is also a sort of a tool in the hands of the Turks, mainly to push Israel to the corner. Okay, the Turks are very hostile towards Israel, and they are trying to find all the possible ways, including in the Gaza Strip, including in Syria, including in Lebanon, and now in the Gulf, okay, through Saudi Arabia. Um, I think that they are trying to make their utmost efforts in order to close on Israel from all the directions. And
Mm.
I think that they believe that by this alliance, they will be able to influence the Saudis to distance themselves from any normalization with Israel. They don't like the idea of normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel. And there are some economic interests which are very crucial interests for the Turks. For an example, the IMEC project, okay? The IMEC project that was supposed to come or to connect India through the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, Europe, okay? This is something that the Turks don't like at all. They want to control such a project, and they don't want that it will go through Israel. They want it to go through Syria and then Turkey.
Right.
And I believe that they believe that by this alliance or with this alliance, they will be more capable to influence on the Saudis and to drag the Saudis to their direction and to distance them from Israel.
Okay.
At the end of
So
the day,
not just a headline grabbing televised signing ceremony, but there's something to it, even though it
yeah,
probably won't affect wars, but there are other important aspects. We have to leave it there. Dr. Kobi Michael, professor, you are a senior researcher at INSS, Institute of National Security Studies near Tel Aviv, also with the Misgav Institute. You're so frequently on the Israeli and world media. Thank you for taking the time to be with me on the Mossad Files.
my pleasure. See you in the next chapter.
Thanks, everybody, for watching this video special from the Mossad Files. On all the audio podcast sites, you can find our weekly audio episodes about the Mossad, about the Middle East, about Israeli strategy. We talk about the Israeli election coming up October 27th and U.S.-Israel relations. My books with Yossi Melman include Friends Indeed, a history of U.S.-Israel relations, Spies Against Armageddon, a history of the Mossad and other secret agencies in Israel, Spies Against Armageddon, and an inexpensive ebook called Target Iran. Yossi and I describe how the Mossad penetrated Iran over the years. Thanks again for watching. I'm Dan Raviv with the latest from the Mossad Files.